Gotta hurt, William has beat Harry on his home turf as the royal brothers' feud rages on. A new poll has been released this week, and it represents an embarrassing and seriously crushing blow for the Sussexes. During that fight known as the War of 1812, British forces burned down a lot of Washington, D.C., including the Executive Mansion. Bye-bye, original White House. It was an incredibly symbolic and also deeply emotional moment, a strike at the heart of the new nation by the gouty Prince Regent. The pride and sense of national identity for the U.S. was really affected. And now, over 200 years later, it looks like the Brits are at it again. So this week, some new polling that was released by Gallup revealed exactly who is the #1 favorite public figure for Americans. And just like back then, a Brit has beaten out so many figures who are completely American. The #1 leader adored by the U.S. is Prince William. Just consider that for a moment. The 41-year-old future king beat out President Zelensky, members of the U.S. Supreme Court, both President Joe Biden and the First Lady Dr. Jill Biden. He beat out King Charles. He beat out the Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, even the man the world most wants to see in an orange jumpsuit, Donald Trump. At another point in history, this new poll would just make for some interesting kind of think piece, except for one fact. Right now, the US has their own skin in the royal game, so to speak, after the royal renegades Harry and Meghan decided to seek refuge in the US. The dastardly duo have spent the last 3.5 years embracing that line from the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But just this week, they have been beaten on their own home turf by none other than Harry's big brother, Prince William. And that right there has to hurt. The irony here is pretty interesting. Harry left a country and an institution where he was held in second place to his older brother. He moved 8,500 kilometers away from home, he crossed an entire ocean and a continent, and he gave up basically his entire former life, only to find that, oh my goodness, William is still beating him. In the interest of transparency, I will mention that this Gallup poll only included a select number of world leaders and big names, and it's not even known if Harry was featured at all. But still, even if he wasn't, that also tells us a lot. The bottom line here is that after years of trying so hard, Americans haven't really embraced Harry and Meghan. The country is simply not going to be patting those two on the hands and saying, "Oh yes, you poor dears, tell us all about it." The thing about these numbers from Gallup is that they are almost the same for both Democrats and Republicans, so that gives both William and Charles a surprising degree of bipartisan support. Now, according to the poll, 65% of the people on the right hold a favorable view of William, and 63% on the left said the same thing. It's a similar situation when we're talking about the king. 50% of Republicans and 49% of Democrats think that he's a great guy. It's easy to see how this news from Gallup could be a bit of an ego deflator for Harry. A bit of a blow for both of them considering they have used interviews, they used a whole TV show, and they used Harry's big book of whining to take aim at the royal family and especially Prince William. Throughout the whole mess, Charles has mostly come out looking like a pretty weak and ineffectual father who just wanted to have his wife, now Queen Camilla, accepted, even at the expense of his sons. But it is William who is put up as the real bully. In the last year, Harry accused his older brother of physically assaulting him, of leaving him feeling, quote, terrified after, quote, screaming and shouting at him during the Sandringham summit, and that Harry was left, quote, heartbroken after William's office supposedly leaked negative information about him and Meghan to the press. But even after all that, even after all those allegations about William, even after Harry has embraced 4th of July parades, even after talking about how excited he is to live in the US and finding an ally in Oprah Winfrey, here we have Americans choosing his supposedly bully of an older brother over him. Perhaps we'll find the answer to this in the fact that the image crafted by William and Catherine is one of the painfully wholesome family values, which plays very well in the US indeed. Or perhaps there is something about Meghan and Harry's having monetized family fights that doesn't sit well with most Americans. To make matters worse, this polling comes even with the accusations and charges of Harry and Meghan in Spare still pretty fresh in the minds of Americans. If this is the way things are right now, less than a year after the beginning of the Great Sussex Onslaught, then it's difficult to see this trend reversing anytime soon. Oh, poor Harry. It has been a pretty mixed bag of a week for him. He's been in Japan for a sports summit, and he's going to be in Singapore this weekend for a charity polo tournament, all the while walking around with that big goofy grin on his face. On other fronts, though, the news hasn't been as good. Somebody finally thought to update the royal family's official online presence, and Harry and Meghan have officially lost their stylings as His and Her Royal Highnesses from their official web pages. Things have also not been looking good for Meghan and Harry's careers. Page 6 has reported that it was Netflix and not the royal pair's Artwell Productions, which paid about $4.5 million for the rights to the bestseller Meet Me at the Lake. There is also the rather surprising fact that while Harry was figuring out how to use chopsticks in Japan and Singapore, Meghan's back at home in Montecito, California. Reportedly, Meghan Markle decided to go to Taylor Swift's concert in LA in a move that's not going to do anything to dispel those rumors of problems at home. So it looks like William has no shortage of fans in the US, and Meghan's having a dance to shake it off, and then Harry's HRH is now all boxed up in the palace attic. Well, at least he's going to have some really good food over there in Asia. And now it has also been reported that Meghan is blaming Spotify for her failure. Oh yes, folks. It is the same broken record from her as usual. The two of them will never take responsibility for anything. Nothing is ever their fault. Nobody taught Meghan how to curtsy. Nobody taught her the words to the national anthem. Nobody taught her anything about protocol. The list goes on and on. Meghan finished that podcast series after nearly 2 years with 29 staff members, including a producer, Rebecca Sinanis, who claimed that Meghan took credit for other people's work, and that she got a lot of help by Spotify too. Even so, she threw Spotify under the bus. Well, it's a typical blame game, we're used to it. I mean, as Bill Simmons, Spotify's head of global sports strategy, called them, they're a couple of lazy grifters. Based on this, why should any other company want to trust them? Spotify did so much to try to accommodate them, they even set up a studio in their home. Bill Simmons was asked to help them because they really needed the help to come up with some good ideas. They had so many producers working for them, but still their stupid series failed. Poor little Meghan wasn't taught how to act in the land of the royal family. She didn't get any help from Netflix, she didn't get any help from Spotify, and of course, it is everybody else's fault as usual. But I thought, according to the Sugars, Meghan knew everything anyway. They say she's so brilliant. She's a producer. She's an actress. She is the most famous woman in the world. She's so independent. She's a strong feminist. Blah, blah, blah. Does that mean that amazing women they have on a pedestal as the be-all end-all of the universe cannot research things or listen to advice to be successful? Meghan Markle is such a loser. And you, what do you think about them? Please tell me your opinion below in the comments. If you think my video is useful, don't be afraid to like and share with anyone else who would enjoy it. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.